Okay, so let's jump right back in. We have our a zombie here. Eventually, I'm going to delete this one out of the scene, and then in this lecture, what we're going to do is we're going to randomly spawn zombies from these 3 points, and the number will increase and all that good stuff depending on the wave. And these things change a little bit as we build out the project a little bit more and we edit the design. Um, if you recall, I had like added a little bit of a like the cab car in there, so we're gonna use that as like kind of a plus one on this series. Anyway, so that we don't get confused, let's close some of these tabs out. I'm just gonna leave the zombie tab and then my game mode tab. So inside of here we have a our start new wave, and then we have a delay when the wave happens, which is 1 second long. So what I'd like to do inside my game mode here is I'd like to do a couple things. So let's create a function that just is going to be used for spawning a zombie. And then, well, where do we want to spawn these zombies? We want to spawn them. So spawn zombie, and then we want to do at random waypoint. We could say spawn point even, because that's really what we're doing. Waypoints are more like your zombie will follow a path. A spawn point is a fixed location that the zombies spawn out of. So just so we're keeping the vernacular right. Um, so here we have our spawn zombie and our spawn zombie at random spawn point. So the first thing we want to do is say, okay, we're going to spawn the zombies at a random spawn point. So let's go ahead and grab all of our target points. Remember these 3 targets here, target point 1, 2, and 3. We want to grab those first. And once we have those, then we're going to randomly select between them, and then we'll spawn our zombie. So you've actually seen this before. It's the get all actors of class, and you could see that it returns an array here. Now, how do we tell it which actors we're trying to get? Well, you see where it says select class here? It has all these different classes. So if I start typing out the word target, it says, oh, you want to grab all of the actors in the scene that come from the same class, which is target point. So now that we're getting all of those actors of the class, well, what are we going to do with it? Well, we need to store it off. And the way we do that is by grabbing a copy of whatever the is stored at that random index. So right now, for example, just we have this first target point here, right? Let's say it loads that in and then 2 and 3. This one is at index 0. I know we did a whole thing on arrays. Just bear with me for a second for in case you forgot some of this information. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. So what this is saying here is we're going to grab all the actors here and then, well, which specific copy do we want to get? Well, we want to get the one at 0. The thing here is we want to grab a random number and then use that to spawn our zombie. So instead of 0 here, we can use a different function called random integer in range. And now you can see we're grabbing it from 0 to 0. So this is still grabbing that first element. Now we could go in there and be like, well, we have 0, 1, 2, which is 3 elements, right? So I could type a 3 in here. But the problem is I would like to expand this level. Maybe I'll do a procedurally generated environment, something like that. And with that, um, you're always going to have to come back in here and adjust the number. And you're also going to have to remember too, and really we should be keeping documentation on as our classes and our functions grow for other people about what does what, right? But for now, what we can do is to fix this is where we have this out actors here, is we can drag this and we can just type in the word length. And this will give us a running total of the length. So no, regardless of the number of target points I copy, this will always upgrade the length. So now I have a random integer from 0 to the length of this array here. And that's really it. And we've actually done something similar to this in previous classes. If you're interested, message me and I'll send you a link to either a YouTube video I've created or a link to the course where we've done that in Unity, where we've done these random waypoints or spawn points. Anyway, so this is pretty much done. Let's go ahead, and the last step is always to just kind of return this. So we're going to add a return result. Actually, we're going to just return here. Let's see. Add return node. And then we're going to wire this in. And then we're just going to kind of wire this a little bit towards the middle if it helps until you see add pin to node. And then just name this like random spawn point. And then let's compile and save that. That's pretty much it for grabbing a random spawn point. Like, and then, yeah, so all we have to do is utilize this and we have to set up our spawning our zombie or instantiating our zombie. All right, so let's go into our spawn zombie here. And right now this is pretty empty. So all I want to do first is I just want to spawn a zombie at a random point. So now we're grabbing the target, right? And let's wire this in there. We want to say, okay, once this is spawned, right? Like we want to check, like, did we actually get a spawn point? And we check if it's a valid spawn point by using is valid. And it's this one with the question mark here. And this is going to say, hey, is this a valid spawn point, right? So this is kind of helps us with errors. And if it is a valid spawn point, we want to instantiate this or spawn it into our scene or spawn our zombie into our scene. And if it is valid, then we grab our isSpawn actor from class node. And this is where we're actually saying, like, well, what actor are you trying to spawn? Well, that's pretty easy. We want to spawn a zombie. So we have this BP zombie here. And then there's like, well, where's our spawn transform, collision handling, all that good stuff. Well, for the spawn transform, you might be wondering, well, where would we spawn this? So if we think about this, we want to spawn it at any one of those 3 target points. Well, we're pretty lucky because over here, we actually have our, we're randomly grabbing one of those target points. So all we have to do is grab the point of whatever is being randomly spawned here, whatever random spawn point that this returns. So we can drag off here and just get the actor's transform. And this is the transform of our spawn point. So if we wire this in here, what'll happen is this zombie here will spawn at this spawn point. All right, so we have this going, which is great. We have our random spawn point. The issue with this now is we're not actually calling this spawn zombie anywhere. So what we can do is go back to our event graph and then just add a custom event here. So just type out custom event, and it should be this option here. And we can call this spawn zombie. What's really cool about this, oh, we already have a function named spawn zombie. Spawn zombie at spawn point. We'll try that. Or at target or something. And come on, don't crash on me. All right, there we go. Avoided a crash. So what we want to do when we spawn zombie at target for this custom event is we want to just grab our spawn zombie, and we just want to wire that in. I think what I'm going to do is, this is kind of wordy. I'm going to take this down a little bit. Instead of spawn zombie at target, it's I'm going to name it like start, or let's see, spawn zombie wave. And then I'm going to, I think that makes better sense. I'm going to copy that name because we're going to need it in a second. So what we'll do is inside of here, we have a start new wave function, right? So if I double click that, you can see it's got a timer here. And what we can do, or it increments our essentially each wave, right? 0, 1, 2. That's what all this is doing here. Inside here, what I can do is I can actually set up a timer so that every so often it'll run a function and it'll actually spawn a new zombie wave. So this custom event here will spawn a zombie wave. So for that, I'm just going to drag this out, and I'm going to use the start timer by function. Let's type out timer by function. Here we go. Set timer by function name. And so, well, what's the function name that we want? Well, I'm going to paste this in here. And that's the name of our custom event. And we want to loop this. And then for now, you could set this for every second. And again, you can adjust this value based on, how fast you want the gameplay to be. You can speed it up as you enter new waves, which is what we'll probably do, is we can increase or decrease time, the number, and all that good stuff. I think that looks pretty good. Let's do file, save all. And then now when we jump on our scene, I'm gonna go ahead and press play, but what I'm gonna do is actually just exit or detach, so you could see them kind of spawning from all the points. So you could see one couple spawned up here, one spawned over here. We got one spawning this way too. So it looks pretty good. And then now when we go in to play the game, we've got the initial character that was already placed. Because remember we did placed and spawned. And as we're running around, we created kind of a fun game. So far we're not there yet. Like we still have our zombie counter that needs to be updated. But we're getting there. We're getting there. And then, like I said, please reach out to me. I'm going to make a whole series on setting up art inside of Unreal, like making. I already have one on making characters that I teamed up with another instructor on. Was a character artist at NetherRealm. So we've got some good content coming, and that's already there to help you kind of do this good stuff. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this lecture. It's getting a little long, and the next one we'll start working on other good stuff like more instantiation and setting up our counter.